Right, okay. So welcome everyone to the WiTT, AI and Robotics event. My name is Helen Kinisky and I'm on the board of Women in Telecoms Technology with Audrey and Michelle. Please stand up, wave. Thank you. And when I knew that we were holding this event on this subject, I said, well, of course we have to host it, IBM. I work for IBM because our top strategic imperative is cognitive on cloud. So, of course, we have to be different. We call it AI cognitive, and Rob shortly will explain why. Anyway, also, quite serendipitously, I run Cloud Division, and Rob Morris, who I will hand over to shortly, runs our Cognitive Solutions Division. So you've got both of us today. Anyway, welcome. Enjoy the view. It's quite a nice view, isn't it? Especially this evening. Yeah, don't worry about the chap on the sofa. But anyway, so enjoy yourselves now. We've got some great panel members. Michelle will introduce them. But without further ado, I think we're going over to a video.
In a moment, I'm going to introduce you to a multi-talented brilliance. What if I told you there's a person who has read just about every medical textbook and journal out there and uses that knowledge to diagnose medical mysteries, but also has collaborated as a fashion designer on a dress that was worn by a supermodel at the Met Gala, has helped produce the movie trailer for a major feature film. Oh, by the way, is also a published cookbook author, has a budding career as a weather forecaster, and did I mention, won a huge tournament on Jeopardy, even beating Ken Jennings. That last part might have been the giveaway. I am not actually talking about a person, but a machine. Meet Watson, IBM's tech platform that uses artificial intelligence and machine learning in extraordinary ways. That list of Watson's accomplishments actually scares many who worry that computers are now powerful enough to do almost any human job.
So I thought we'd stop it just there, because that may be the subject of some of the discussion this afternoon, this evening. Thank you for that fantastic introduction, Helen. Deeply flattered. I'm also not going to call it the super intelligent. That was Watson he was talking about rather than me. So I was fortunate enough to get involved in the Watson program a couple of years ago. And I thought what I'd do in just opening this very briefly is to talk a little bit about Watson and what it is and what it isn't. So we really started in 2004, 2005 in preparing for the game show, which ran in 2011. Okay, and what we had to do that is we had to produce a technology platform that was not connected to the internet, that could answer the general knowledge questions that were asked in riddles and place bets on the probability of us being correct in the answer and beat the world champion at doing it. That's what Jeopardy was. It's not a very European thing. Kind of unfortunate they didn't choose a European game show rather than an American one, but that's what Jeopardy is. The key for us is it had to learn, and it had to learn at an incredible rate to enable it to have all the information that was necessary to make the decisions on the answers without being connected to anything. So all went well. The game show was run over 2 days. Watson came up with some incredibly stupid answers, but only a few. It came up with enough correct answers with the probability of them being right to place the bets on how much money they were prepared to wager on each answer and beat the grand champion. So that was fantastic, and you can call that a proof point. That was like, you know, playing against Kasparov with Deep Blue many, many years ago. But then what do you do to commercialize it? And I often say we've really rewritten Watson 3 times. So we designed it for the game show. That was connected to nothing. But if you're going to take this into the commercial space, or the academic space, or the research space, you needed to be connected to something. So the first thing was about connecting. That went well for a few years, and then we realized we needed to scale. So while Jeopardy was a computer in a room, or a very, very big room, with lots of racks and disks, it now stands as a rack in the corner, as part of a platform. The third time we had to do this was to make it easy to use and to make it available to anyone. So we've had to make some key decisions as we went along the journey. And I think the first one is probably the most important one, and one I'm sure we'll discuss tonight, is we believe that Watson is there to augment intelligence. So we talk about it as augmented intelligence. Man or woman and machine. Not man or woman or machine. It's both. The one, the machine, gives the human incremental information and intelligence for the human to make the decision, and for the human to train it. Kind of fundamental decision that we had to make. We could have said, no, it's actually going to be the science fiction box that's going to stand in the corner and rule the world. But we didn't. Second one, and I think this is really important to any commercial organization out there, was the data remains your data. It's not IBM's data, it's your data. The intellectual property is yours. So most organizations are not going down that path. They're collecting your data and using it. You know which organizations those are. In our view, what we needed to provide was a platform, a cloud-based platform that was available to anyone that could take their data. And this is like going to school. You could take your data, you could send it to school to learn. That's Watson. And when learned, you send your data back home to be used. Your intellectual property, exactly the same. So it remains yours. So that was decision number 2 that we had to make as we went down this journey. And I think the third decision was that it needed to be available to everyone. And that means that we need an ecosystem to do that, and it needed to be cloud-based. And we believe that you don't make a decision about artificial intelligence that's one decision about artificial intelligence. It always has 3 elements to it. Is what is the artificial intelligence component, what is the cloud, and what is your security decision around it? And you need to make those 3 decisions together. And what you need to buy, and I promise you this isn't a sales pitch, what you need to buy is something that has been designed and architected to combine those 3 things to make sure that your data and your intellectual property remains yours going forward. So, those are a couple of the key decisions we made. You saw up here we've done some fun things with Watson. Most recently we made a song, all right, and the concept of this, the movie too, I don't know if any of you saw Morgan. The most dreadful movie you've ever seen in your life. But Watson developed the trailer for it, okay? What it did is went and watched hundreds and hundreds of movie trailers. So Watson ingests data and information very fast, 3 million lines per minute, okay? So it can learn really, really fast, and the same with video and everything else. And it looked at what had been done from a movie perspective and what the key elements were of successful movies where the trailer had an influence on the eventual profitability of the movie. It took those key attributes and then it watched the Morgan movie and suggested that they put these pieces in the order that they are and what the music should be to underpin that to make it a dramatic, scary and horrible movie. And it did all of that, and who knows if it worked or not. The song is a little bit more fundamental. So have a look at what's important from a community perspective. What are the items that people are talking about? What are the attributes of a hit song? Go and learn about those and then put together the music and the lyrics to make that happen. Okay? And I believe it did quite well on the downloads. I don't know how well, but it did well on the downloads. So those are gimmicks. But today, Watson is at scale. So we believe Watson this year will touch 1 billion people in the world that will be using Watson today. In the UK, several 4 of the 5 large banks are using Watson in some form. And that's not, I'm building an artificially intelligent supercomputer and putting it in the corner. I'm embedding the AI technologies into my business processes that I have today to improve them, to improve the customer interaction, to reduce cost, or to grow my revenue. And I think that's where we need to focus quite a lot of what we actually do. And then in closing, before I get to exit off here, the number one thing that we need to address when we start working with customers and customers start working in their own organizations with artificial intelligence is the fear factor. And I do hope we discuss it tonight because I believe it is being blown out of all proportion. And if we allow that to happen and we don't bring home the reality of what's actually happening today with people who are using this technology for good purposes very successfully, we will find that the bad will overtake the good in this world again, and we will have missed an opportunity. So, thank you for coming to IBM. Thank you for listening to me for 10 minutes, and I hope you can walk out of here having addressed whatever you want to address from an AI and robotics perspective. Company song. No, I'm not going to sing the Watson song, but I'm going to tell you this, and it's a true story. We recruit a lot of people, and when we merged together with PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting, I was part of the group that was merging it together. We had the induction day, and I had this group of 50 people from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I walked in, and I was doing the briefing on IBM. And I said, well, we always start our meetings by looking back at what happened in history. And so I flashed up that day in history, which is actually a website where you can find these things. And it said that Thomas Watson, who was the chairman at that stage, introduced new benefits for women. Okay, and the company went out in protest and sang the company song. So I said, so I'd appreciate if you all stood up, and then you IBMers could join me in singing the company song, which I didn't know what the words were. But you've never seen 50 consultants' faces fall so quickly.
Thank you. Great. My name is Michelle Senecal. I'm also one of the WiTT directors. And again, welcome you tonight. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get going. Please make sure that your mobiles are turned off. Tonight we are recording this session, so Chatham House rules are not applicable. And hopefully you can see our handle, and please feel free to tweet whatever you hear this evening. Great. All right. Now, I think there's probably a time where AI at work already. I think there's pretty much a time where AI was pretty much the purview of really bad science fiction novels for teenagers and B-rated movies. But when you look at it today, I think it's gone mainstream. So much so that you've had, Shakespeare play being produced with virtual reality, which, many of you WiTT members went up and saw at Stratford this year. We've had the Barbican, who's having a performance, a dance performance, utilizing robots alongside the humans. And half the time when you're sitting on your customer experience online, you probably don't even know if you've got a chatbot or a virtual assistant that's helping you. So I think it really has become quite a diverse and mainstream. But the thing is, it's used in so many different ways that how do you actually put your arms around it? So tonight we have a panel of really diverse individuals who all look at it from a slightly different perspective. So I'd like to introduce you to them. Our illustrious panel will start with Sarah Burnett. Sarah is the chairman of BCSWomen, and she is the VP and founder for Everest Group. Is that correct? Everest. Sorry. I'm known for butchering names, so bear with me, people. Next to her, we have Oana Korda, and she is a co-founder and the director of product for a robotics company called Woogie. Next to her, Giles Pavey, who is a freelance data scientist and consultant, but has spent pretty much, 20 years at Dunnhumby being their data scientist. Next to him, we have Clara, Durodié, and she is the founder and managing partner of Cognitive Finance. And at the end. We have Laetitia Cailleteau, who's also been a WiTT member, and very glad to have you back here this evening. She is the MD and the tech lead at Accenture, and specifically the London Liquid Studio, which I'm anxious to find exactly what that is. Great. Now, given that our panelists have covered such a wide spectrum, we thought it might be helpful if each one of them took maybe about 3 minutes and just sort of talk about where they see the industry at the moment, or what their participation level is, and then we'll go through and ask some questions, and after that we'll open up to the panel. We'll also love to have Rob come back up and take questions from the floor. Okay? So, Sarah, sort of in addition to your duties at BCS, you've had time to start a new company. Want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Oh, I just have to make a correction. I didn't start Everest Group. I'm
Those are always so modest here.
I'm the lead analyst for Everest Group, which is a boutique industry analysis firm. We look at global services such as IT services and business process services, and we work at what's going on in that market. And my role as the lead analyst is for Europe is to look at the technologies that are significantly disrupting traditional service delivery models, and AI and business process, AI and robotic process automation come into that. AI has grabbed all the headlines, but actually there's an absolute revolution going on with dumb software that's called robotic process automation behind the scenes. It's really changing the way that organizations run, and I can talk forever about those two technologies, but my other role is that as chair of BCSWomen, this is where I think the founding thing comes from. I founded AI Accelerator recently in March, and this is to help as many people as possible to get to understand AI better, understand the opportunities that it brings. It's a real gold rush, to tell you the truth, and the more you know, the more opportunities you can spot.
I'll give an acceleration. You want to be able to find investment, and next to you have an entrepreneur who's doing that. Oana?
Hi guys, I'm Oana. I come from Romania. I'm 28, and 1.5 years ago I started building Woogie, which is an educational AI robot for children. And our main purpose is to, while using AI, to make the interactions more relevant and give children access to information in a way that makes sense for them. So that means that Woogie is a device. First of all, is proactive, so he can deliver proactively information, which is very helpful when we talk about children and parents that have different needs and wishes to teach children whatever topics. And it sits in the child's room, and it interacts basically in the morning or after school. And parents get access through a mobile app where they can add more content or forbid certain topics, and they receive information based on whatever Woogie learns from the interactions. Let's say that the kid is asking a lot about stars and comets and aliens, and then Woogie understands that he's passionate about astrology, so he comes proactively delivering that kind of information first in order to engage more in discovering new things about the world in general. He has a story, he has an awesome product design, and the phase we're at right now, we built around 40% of the AI platform, and in terms of hardware, we're preparing ourselves to launch an Indiegogo campaign, which will be live next week. And please come join us there and see what's the story behind it. And we're preparing for manufacturing, and it should be on the market early next year.
Thank you. Giles?
Hi everyone, my name is Giles Pavey. I'm a freelance data scientist, and I advise a number of machine learning startups. I work at University College London and Oxford University in computer science and mathematics. But I think I'm invited here because for close to 20 years I was leading analytics, and then when it became trendy, data science at Dunnhumby. Who's heard of Dunnhumby? That doesn't matter if you haven't, because who's heard of Tesco? So Dunnhumby. Yeah, exactly. Dunnhumby is the company that analyzes customer behaviour for Tesco, and that started off just very much with analysing the sales data, with the club card data, and then increasingly as more and more different types of data come in, and machine learning takes off, it's analysing all sorts of things. And very broadly to do three things. So the first is to try and anticipate what people want to do, and to therefore take friction out of the system. The second is to try and understand what customers might like, so to help them grow, give them recommendations. And the third is to anticipate when maybe people are making mistakes, so ordering, maybe buying food that they're not going to be able to eat all of before it goes past the sell-by, or if they've told you that they've got an allergy to something, and they accidentally buy something that's got it in them, got the thing that they're allergic to in, pointing that out to them. That's me.
Well, advising that company in the retail space, you're trying to also advise businesses, but a little more difficult, Clara. You've got the financial sector.
Yes, I'm the founder and managing partner of Cognitive Finance Group. We do two main things. We are advisors to financial services board of directors and senior management on strategizing AI, making sense of this technology in real life. My background is asset and wealth management, and I spent most of my career in that space. And I left in 2014. I left the city in 2014 with a view to pursue a PhD, which I started, but then I got diverted into setting up this company. My PhD, which I hope will be finished sooner rather than later, sits at the intersection of neuroscience, machine learning, and wealth management, and it looks at how episodic memory informs how we save and how we invest. So one of the things we do with cognitive finance is advisors to boards in financial services and also implementing AI systems. We have a data science company division which is based in Amsterdam, and we do a lot of data science interesting projects for financial services. And the other thing we are doing is we are setting up an investment fund with a focus to invest in AI technology. We have identified 7 investment themes, but we will be focusing only on 2, financial services and healthcare. So education is an important sector, and we have identified it as such. So this is what we do. And the company's been set up as a privately owned company by the people who work in it. And we currently 6 partners who have set up, founded this business together. So this is me.
Laetitia, you're also an advisor, but I think on a much broader scope. You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with Accenture and for their clients?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, hi, I'm Laetitia Cailleteau. I am French, as you would hear. Actually, I've been in the UK for 10 years, but I'm married to a Swede, so my accent is difficult to locate, I think. So I have a number of hats in Accenture. I'm leading emerging technology in UKI, which go from Internet of Things, virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. I'm also the Liquid Studio director, which is what you mentioned earlier. So the Liquid Studio is a new entity in Accenture. We decided to set up a different business, which is all about bringing innovation to our clients, which is kind of a little bit away from the red tape, which is about kind of doing design thinking session, inspiring our client on trying to show them what AI can do for them to solve real problems. And we have a real prototyping team sitting in the studio that would do prototyping real time in a matter of a few days. Yeah. So that's kind of my second hat on this, is keeping us quite busy because we have a lot of clients kind of coming to ask us about what does AI mean for us and how can we embrace that world. And finally, my last hat is I'm the global lead for Virtual Agent, which is one of the subsets of artificial intelligence, which is all about conversational UI. I'm working very closely with the IBM colleagues as well as Microsoft, of this world, the Amazon Alexa, the Google, and some of the more niche company, rocking the world in these markets, delivering some of that to our clients. So that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you. Well, I think, at any point, if you pick up an industry report right now, all of the industries would say the top technologies, the hot trends, AI is always on that list. But you would think it's really sort of new and inventive. But I looked up and, actually the term was coined in 1955 as a subdiscipline of computer science way back then. And so I think where we've gotten to today is it's a collection of both very old and tested technologies and new ones. But I don't think we really understand the spectrum that it runs. So maybe we start with you, Laetitia, and could you kind of give us a tutorial about what does it really mean? I mean, what are the components?
Definitely. So I think the definition you're referring to is the one that was kind of fed in the Turing, one of the first Turing conference. Yeah. So at Accenture, we define artificial intelligence as any system that can sense data, comprehend it, act, and learn. I think that's quite a broad thing, so I'm going to bring it to life in a number of ways. So sensing, I think we have a number of IoT devices we're talking about, can be the connected home, some water coming through. Comprehending it is just making sure you make sense of it, and from that piece of information you actually decide what to do. Act is your traditional SI, basically deciding, how to connect to a back-end system, and then the important loop is to learn. Yeah. So if you're learning from experience. Yeah. So in the AI world, there's a number of different senses you're having. So conversational UI, for instance, is about speaking in natural language, which is a particular sense, which is expressing an intent, with particular utterances and sentences that the normal human being would learn. So there's IoT, there's computer vision as well, so sensing particular image data, for instance, so being able to look at an image, recognizing a cat or dog, or recognizing, like we delivered a project recently about some weeds, some different type of weeds, so you can recommend different type of product, for instance. If you're a retailer for weed product, it's just saying you could actually use some of that. So basically, any system that can sense in a very broad term, comprehend that, which is machine learning, computer vision, and those things. Act is traditional SI, and then you have your learning loop over time. If your robot can't understand, then you'll keep that learning loop going. On top of that, there's a couple of other things like natural language generation, which are a little bit the exception on the side, but I think with that definition, it covers quite a broad sense of.
Okay. Would you want to add anything, Sarah? Does that include also like biometrics and deep learning or anything else?
I think it's an excellent description. I think there's the only thing I'd like to add is that what we're talking about today is narrow AI. It's not this kind of all-knowing, we don't have how. From Space Odyssey, we don't have that. It is narrow AI, and in the areas that most people are concerned, particularly about their jobs and so on, it's about task-based AI and doing AI that's trained to do specific things or trains itself within a given context. And there's a lot of very sort of basic stuff in it as well, like some of the statistical analysis that AI does isn't. Those have been around for decades, but there's also some excellent sort of new developments. And machine learning was for a time actually interchangeably used instead of AI. In fact, AI went out of fashion for a time, and I think it's come back again. Even though I think IBM doesn't particularly like using AI, does it?
We actually really don't mind. We call it cognitive era.
Yeah.
But it's AI. Let's be honest.
And there are different ways of enabling machines to learn. So there's sort of supersets, if you like, of machine learning. Maybe deep learning could be considered a kind of superset or a subset, depending how you look at it. There's so much overlapping technology as well. But I would say, we're talking about task-based, narrow AI.
Well, there's a lot of debate on just how prevalent it is. I mean, are we on the Gartner's, what is it, the hype curve or the trough of disillusionment at the moment? I mean, are people actually using this stuff? I did see one survey, it was done by Narrative Science, who says in 2017, 38% of companies are already using some form of artificial intelligence, and by next year it'll be 62%.
But that's
Seems really
narrative
high.
science.
Okay, that's narrative.
They're plugging their own. Saying, look, everybody else is using it.
I
use
guess
it.
so, pushing it. But are we actually adopting it? Clara, are you seeing it widely used in the financial market?
Well, in financial services, there are different levels of adoption of this technology, and in our experience, it's very much driven by how well this technology is understood at the board level, and because the board gives mandates to their teams, to the CTOs, to the rest of the business to engage with this technology. And sadly enough, there are certain companies which are still in probably more than other parts of financial services in wealth and wealth management, private banking, smaller organizations. They seem to think that they can continue doing the business they've been doing in the way they've been doing it for a good number of years. So there are cases of that, but by and large, we see that the adoption rate of this technology and the understanding how this technology is a strategic tool to secure business growth in the next generation and decades to come, and to secure and increase the competitive edge of that business. We see this understanding and adoption of this technology more and more. So we don't have time today to dive into different business processes, and I'm sure you've come across with some of your clients, you'd see that certain business processes or functions in financial services are more willing to embrace this technology rather than others. So maybe a topic for some other time.
Okay. So where are we seeing the early adoption? Is it in the retail area, like Tesco's, or is it manufacturing, healthcare?
I think we've seen, I think the first wave was in financial services. When you compare it to some of the other ones, it's actually been there. So I think you said you have for the banks experimenting, we've seen that as well. And I think it started in Europe as well. We also have, a trend now on telco, which is kind of ramping up, and I think it's moving quite rapidly to quite large transformation in the US. Where people, a year ago were asking us for POCs, things like that, and now asking us for a transformation program, which is 2 or 3 years, where they actually really kind of going hardcore into, we want to, use the tool and beneficiate from it. I think some of the commerce as well is the resources client. So we've delivered in the UK a couple of resources, or in Oana, a couple of resources projects around, delivering new services. And the challenge of the resources company was they had very little margin, basically, to operate because, and they needed to kind of try to reinvent themselves. So a lot of the innovation coming from that, they've been trying to innovate quite heavily, using AI to be more customer friendly and all that type of thing. So I think definitely some of those things. But we start seeing product people coming through our doors, and I think that people are coming through kind of gradually. But this is like the 3 major industries we've been seeing.
Any difference of opinion?
Yeah, I think we're. So I'll talk about machine learning, which is the part of artificial intelligence, which is driven by data and learns by example. And it's machine learning that has been with us really since we all started to carry smartphones. So it's more or less impossible to do anything on your smartphone without it involving machine learning. And that's what makes it ubiquitous. And then in terms of my area, very much is now being used in retail, in more or less all aspects of retail. Machine learning, it is like a sort of second industrial revolution. And the first industrial revolution was about automating muscle power, and more or less everything that uses muscles could be automated by a steam engine, which didn't need feeding, only water, fire, and quite merrily worked for 24 hours a day without a rest, and you could just make more and more of them. And what we're now, any process which is, can be done by a human, or sort of any narrow process to your point, Sarah, at this stage, that can be done by a human, more or less if you can explain it to somebody else, then you can set your machine learning up as long as you can find enough test case data. And so it's everywhere on the internet. You can see the case for using it more or less any place where you could think, if only I had an unlimited supply of people who would work for nothing and tirelessly and would be consistent in the way they work. If that applies to anything, then there's a great opportunity for using machine learning there.
I'm really intrigued by the comment that you said it started here in Europe. Oana, I mean, you're from Romania and well known for its software industry, but you choose to come to London. Are you finding skills easier to find here, or what's driving that?
Well, I guess we came to London look for money, but definitely. I mean, we do have a lot of smart people in Romania. Like, I have 8 people in my team, and they're all amazing, and we've been bootstrapped for 1.5 years. So we are, only driven by our ambition to build something that is really meaningful for children and education. So, yeah, what took us here was that we've been accepted to an IoT accelerator. So we came here just to go to international market, basically, because it was our plan from the very beginning to go international. So from Romania, I would say that that's a bit difficult to do. We've learned a lot while being here and interacting with parents and interns of adults. And it's really interesting to see that moms are a bit scary when they when they hear that it's an AI thing that talks to my child. But dads, they're like, oh yeah, 300 pounds, I will pay for that. It has AI. So yeah. But what we're doing with Woogie is not like trying to replace anyone, either parents or the educators. It's just building this platform of content delivery, which is based on voice, and make sure that we understand not only from the interactions like the vocal ones, but since Woogie is designed with sensors, he can understand better when to and decide when and how to deliver information in a way that it's relevant for children. And by sending this data to parents and giving us access to parents to either erase or push more content on that side, I think we're it's a fine line, but we're still safe. I mean, it's not all driven by AI, so kids are safe.
Well, I think the whole topic of skills around this is quite important because, oddly enough, I find that when you get the topic of AI, it's probably the closest we can come to a team sport in our industry. Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they all seem very willing to have open sourcing on their research and what they're doing, and even Apple, who is super secretive, published for the first time all of their reports on their AI activities. Why? I mean, is it because we don't have the right skills? Is this we're still too formative that we need to be able to promote people into it? I'd be kind of curious because you work with an accelerator.
They're trying to get third-party companies to develop software that would work with their software, so they're more open their APIs, the more software they'll get. And it's literally about, you saw in the early days of Microsoft opening its architecture and really capturing the market. It's the same kind of thing. They want to have the biggest presence and be the most interchangeable, if you like, software that all other applications can interact with.
What's your accelerator? What are you trying to focus on in terms of, is it more deepening a lot of that particular research, or is it actually moving into ways and user cases?
The accelerator is about skills. It's getting particularly focused on women because I run BCSWomen, which is the women's group of the British Institute for IT. But everybody's welcome, so it's open to everyone, men, women as well. And the point is to make them aware of what's happening, because to tell you the truth, I think if you read all the papers and the headlines, I think you'd get really worried. We already have a load of political uncertainty around us and economic uncertainty, then you hear that your jobs are all going to disappear as well because of AI. So really the accelerator is about helping people understand what it is, how can it be used, where can it be applied, and really help you see the opportunities. Because to me, really, it is like gold rush, because there are, with the massive amount of data that we're generating every day in the world, this is data that has AI. And in terms of what it can be applied to, honestly, the possibilities are endless. I mean, today I was at an innovation forum where I heard about being able to analyze images more than we have been able to. There are miniature satellites up there that are photographing the Earth and being able to identify all kinds of trends and patterns that geographically are happening. And apart from which, all our user data, if you've got Alexa, you're giving loads of data to Amazon, all the other, I've used Google, I've got, you can probably go off now and start talking to me. So all this data is like a gold mine, and if you can use AI to, you need AI type capabilities to analyze it and find the opportunities that are out there. And we're seeing the real blue sky thinkers actually come up with some fantastic ideas. Then we're seeing the real innovating companies get out there, like the ones who manufacture these tiny satellites, and then even sort of autonomous cars as well. And then we've got companies that are working so hard, still putting sticking plaster over their legacy systems, and really stuck there and not being able to move with the times and get ahead, and not be able to tap into this vast opportunity that's AI and data related. So the AI accelerator is to make people aware of this and help them get into this business.
You raised the issue, and Rob mentioned it, and I think it's always the elephant in the room, is about job loss, being replaced, and automation. I think PwC reported this year that 30% of Britain's jobs are at risk due to AI. Make sure I get the numbers right. 2.25 million in wholesaling and retail, 1.2 million in manufacturing, 1.1 in administration, and another million in transport and storage. And that's just for starters. Laetitia, you were on BBC this morning. I think you were talking exactly about this topic. What do you think?
I think it's inevitable. Some of the nature of the jobs are going to change. Yeah, so we see, for instance, a lot of demand in call center transformation or help desk transformation. On some robots, basically, that can do things that are quite basic in terms of process or data management. Meaning, in Accenture, we actually replaced 25,000 roles in our help desk, but we didn't displace those people. We actually retrained them on higher value jobs. One of the things I tell my clients all the time is, what's the customer satisfaction rate of your call center? Yeah? So if you're actually making sure the robot is taking care of what you can do today, well, actually you can focus your time on making the customer care, that much better, because it's so far away from being 100% anyway. So I think, you can definitely kind of change the nature of some of the roles, yeah. Then there's some other roles that are created, now that's talking about existing things. Then there's a space for innovation as well. So just another example is in Singapore, we did help the government. We had a team of 10 people watching some CCTV cameras, 35,000 of them. And basically, they couldn't do anything. They're just receiving the stream, and if something happened, they just could do after. They could go and check out what happened and what was about it, and just give it to the court service and things like that. Now, with actually machine learning, you can detect or train the algorithm to detect abnormal behavior. So instead of having the information at posteriori and not being able to do anything about it, you can actually proactively resolve the case and actually call the right things. So AI is enabling a number of new things as well, and we're just scratching the surface of all of that. So, like in any industrial revolution, the nature of the jobs are going to change, yes, but I don't believe we're going to all lose our job. And actually, especially people in IT. So we are recruiting like crazy, and there's a complete war for talent there. I think, a lot of people think AI is only data scientists, but that's not true. There's a number of big companies like IBM which are pre-training algorithms with machine learning, and they are the specialists in training those algorithms. Actually using them pre-trained is kind of quite natural IT kind of thing. So depending on what you want to do, what narrow AI you want to do, if it's very sophisticated, then you need some data scientists and you need people to break their head on it, and they need to understand the data, the algorithm, and all of that. But if you want to do a chatbot or digital assistant, things are pre-trained nowadays, so you can actually go with it without that deep specialist skills. So.
Any other opinion about?
Can I just make first of all, I completely like you. I disagree with those stats. I think it's just a case of redefining certain jobs. Just imagine how would our life be if we were still having the horse waiting for us to take us from A to B. We wouldn't have drivers, wouldn't we? We wouldn't know how to drive the car, would we? We wouldn't have engineers specialising in fixing the cars, and so many other jobs which were invented precisely because of the event of that industrial revolution. But coming back to the point of we're going to lose the jobs if we employ AI, my submission to a lot of my audiences and also clients is that actually businesses in financial services, if you're not employing AI, that's when you're going to start losing your business. And that's when you're going to have to start firing your people, and without even having the chance to retrain them. Because it is a case of, well, look, in any business, the highest cost of a business is human capital cost. There are certain functions in financial services, middle and back office mainly, which can be delivered either by upgrading your current IT systems or simply just throwing human capital at them. So the more you try to solve those problems, the more people you need to hire, right? And it comes a point when, given the fact that margins in financial services are under pressure already, they're compressed, by hiring more people, you're eroding even more into those already compressed margins. And it will come a point, a critical point, where you as a business have to think, am I going to be doing the same thing, which is eroding into my margins, or am I going to start actually using this technology to make my business sustainable? And with that submission, I tell people that the definition of AI, it is a business tool. It's a strategic tool. Businesses cannot simply do without it. And there are businesses in financial services in 2017 which they're not using AI, not even considering AI, let alone the good old RPA. So yes, we need to retrain our current workforce in order to keep our businesses sustainable and profitable, so we can protect our current people and keep on, paying salaries and be profitable.
I just got a quick answer on that. So it's my son's 13th birthday tomorrow, and when I was 13, there was no way, this was the 80s, that anybody was going to imagine that I was going to be a data scientist and what that job was going to be. So likewise, I think, trying to project out, I think we're on safe ground thinking that some jobs will disappear. I think we're on very, very dodgy ground trying to imagine what jobs will replace them, but I think it's almost certainly the case that new and exciting data scientist is a more exciting job than the jobs that were being suggested to me when I was 13. So I'm optimistic.
Sorry, just one comment on that. So I agree with everything that's been said. The piece that worries me the most is what are we doing about the STEM skills in schools? And I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but this election should actually be about what are we doing about getting the right curriculum for the children in schools who will be the generation who actually have to take these technologies to the next level of technologies. And there's absolutely no question that the STEM skills are the ones that we'll need going forward.
And I think I'll go beyond that. I think the whole educational model we need to change because, as we were saying, the pace of innovation is going much faster. I think when the cars got introduced, I think it took 52 years for them to reach 50 million kind of consumers. You know, when you look at some of the latest technology, they just go like that in terms of pace of adoption. So I think the educational system for children is very important, but for adults too, because you know, even if we actually finding the next job tomorrow, maybe you know we need to be able to keep up to date and you know just feel comfortable with that and continue learning all our life, and that should be part of our educational system as well.
Great inspiration for Woogie. You're gonna
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing, because what worries me at this point is that we're not teaching children in school the future skills that they should. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, this is more worrying than people losing jobs. Why not, train our children and teach them how to have the right mindsets to embrace this technology and to, build it in a more meaningful way for the future.
Well, I think with every industrial revolution or change in technology, I mean, I'm still old enough to remember ladies in the central office doing, plug phones, and we don't have phone operators anymore, and it happened in our lifetime. Punch cards. Oh, yeah. My first computer science class. But it is going to be some level of displacement, and I think what you were talking about at the rate of displacement, it is becoming more of an issue that we have to talk about at government policies. Robert Shiller, he is the Nobel Prize winning U.S. economist, and I want to quote this, that the scale of the workplace transformation is set to take place in the coming decades should lead to a consideration of a robot tax to support those who the machines make redundant. And actually, Bill Gates has been talking about this quite frequently. If you've caught any of his interviews lately, he is actually going on record by saying that a robot tax, meaning that the value of the work that the robot does should still be taxed to be able to drive incomes and for the public policies. I've also heard something about living wages, meaning we just pay human beings to be human beings. Thoughts on this, guys?
Well, I would love Bill Gates' Microsoft Office if that had been taxed. But it started automating, word processing and Excel spreadsheets, etc.
With age comes wisdom, I suppose.
But it's particularly funny coming from Bill Gates. I think it's inevitable. I think it's not just going to be automation. There's not going to be the ability for a chancellor to distinguish between this is a robot type automation and this one is some other kind of software. I think there will be general taxation of software in a different way that we haven't had so far.
Sort of productivity tax of some sort?
I think probably a life per license or something. I don't know. I don't want to give the chancellor ideas. But I think it's got to come because there is definitely a replacement of people going on. At the moment, it's at small scale, but it will scale up, and it will take time to develop these new skills and new jobs coming in. And the point that Bill Gates makes is about income tax. Governments not being able to raise as much income tax as before. So I mean, who knows? But it is an interesting development.
I think it was acknowledgement that, to your point, the adoption is actually going faster in the change, but to reskill workforce over a generation may not move at the same pace. What are you advising your clients, or are they even asking you about it?
Around the reskilling. Actually, we use AI to reskill people. I don't know if you've seen, but there's a couple of startups that are kind of actually listening in sales calls, for instance, and you would have trained them on particular characteristics. So if you're a sales agent, they would say, "Are you very factual and kind of friendly," or things like that. They would give you kind of tailored advice on how to be better. So I think AI can be used to actually help people be trained. Meaning on that particular problem, meaning I agree there's a challenge, but I think the challenge exists today. I think the way we take care of society is actually not great, meaning when you see teachers or when you see nurses working that hard for that little money. I think we have a real challenge on how we balance wealth and society at this point in time. I think this is just kind of making it stronger. But I think we need to rethink wealth in general and how it's distributed. That's my view.
I think one thing that might happen is, so all of the machine learning which is going on is all driven by data. And at the moment, all of the data that the big internet companies are using is data about us, but that we're not, we're receiving free services as a result, but we're not getting directly paid. So whether there's a model where we can get remuneration for allowing our data to be used, that, that's another way of changing the dynamics of the system. But I think like many of these things, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But I think that could be another way of us getting paid for our part in the system.
And also, someone mentioned to me that it takes about 6 months, only 6 months, to train yourself in a Python course and learn how to code. So, speaking about high adoption, change rate, when you really want to achieve something and you realize where the world is going and you want to do something about it, you just do something about it, because there's so many tools out there, and including free online courses and training yourself. So it's just, people need to open their minds to being a little bit more intellectually curious, I think. This would be the mantra going forward. It's learning almost all the time.
Well, with this tech displacement, there are sort of the winners and the losers, and there's a school of thought that actually some of the winners might be women in general, partly because as you move towards, as Rob was talking about, a combination of the computer aiding the human being, what you really want from the human being is more of the creative thinking, the emotional intelligence, things that, traditionally women tend to have maybe a stronger suit or place to the leads, as well as more of the women are still going into education at the moment, and some of the jobs that they're taking today would be the ones that are probably later down the road being displaced. Any thoughts about that? I thought it was kind of an interesting viewpoint.
It was echoed this today at the AI Summit by PwC, actually, where they said the loser of transformation would be, they didn't justify it by data, but they said 45 to 55 years old men were going to be the people that would suffer most. They were quite specific, but I think it's coming from the same report where you put some of the kind of a note in there. I don't know, there's also that strange trend around conversational AI where all of the bots are typically women as well, where we're like, is that good or is it bad or is it short?
It's a UK thing though, isn't it? In Europe, I think Siri is more man than woman.
Yeah, the voice of Siri, but I think Siri is having a mixed feedback. I think in terms of success as well. But yeah, meaning, I think women are more empathic for sure. I'm not sure if this is driving some of the strengths.
Well, and it's also the fact that, if you have using artificial intelligence for screening of job applicants, and you sort of eliminate the unconscious bias that is being discussed a lot within corporations at the moment. You look at trending information about who would make the best skill set, not necessarily from a CV, and in that case, women might actually fare a lot better. I don't know.
Well, I'm hoping we also attract more women into this field, because first of all, there's some degree of sort of more interactions. It's more than just bits and bytes. It's about training AI, helping to understand the context within which it's running, and initially, often it starts by copying people. So actually, teaching AI, I think, might appeal. And then there's AI for good. Of course, there's lots of stuff going on, like better, sort of remote medical care using AI. I think all of these might appeal more to women and attract them into this field. I'm really hoping. Come on, ladies. Yes, that's right. Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, with that, I'd like to open up to the floor for any questions for Rob and the rest of the panelists. If you just stand up and say your name, I'd appreciate it.
My purse.
That's okay.
It's not for me, because it's really complicated and difficult. Hello, my name is Durodié. I'm the CEO, sorry, I should say founder and CEO of a company called Three Sisters Care. We're a care agency. I'm not a technology person. I have 131 employees. I know that because I was working on payroll today. 131 human employees who go out and deliver care services to older people. I'm a bit of a technology nerd, so I'm very rare in the social care sector. I'm building care robots. My question to all the panel is, at the moment, one of my employees goes into an old ladies' home. Let's call her Dorothy, because a lot of old women are called Dorothy. She goes to see Dorothy, and Dorothy says, I don't want my medicine. So my care worker is trained, according to how we train them, according to what the law says, to try and encourage Dorothy to take her medicine. Because if Dorothy doesn't take her medicine, she might die. So now I'm building care robots with some of the top robot companies in the UK. I'm really, really concerned with this question. So Dorothy says to the robot, let's call her Susan, Susan, I don't want to take my medicine. Who's accountable when Susan does or does not give her medicine and Dorothy dies? So you can say on one hand, I'm building robots. On the other hand, I'm really trying to involve AI in this because there's a lot of very important decision making that the care worker has to do. At the moment, the law says that when Dorothy's refused, that's okay, so long as the care worker's recorded. I offered her the medication and she said no, because every human being has the right to refuse and they have the right to die, all of that. But suddenly, all of a sudden, I've got robots and they're intelligent, and then all of a sudden, I'm now responsible because my robot has killed a person. I mean, this is real world stuff, you know, and I'm really, really worried, even though I love robots. I mean, I don't know.
I'll get good liability insurance.
The whole insurance sector has got to change for this, right?
Anybody want to chat about it? I know they've got lawyers sitting in the audience.
We are entering the space of AI governance, AI ethics, and as you said, the law needs to change to reflect this. And I think the law, it's a little bit, the legislator is a little bit behind with this, but they're catching up. It's a real life case.
I think it's worse as well now that we're going into Brexit, because I think the European Union was actually starting to tackle some of those laws, and I think now with Brexit, basically the UK would have to start doing some of that. But on that particular case, meaning the law is already there, you can record the decision, and the robot can listen to Dorothy saying, no, I don't want my things, and then you have proof that you've been asking and all that type of thing. So I guess in that particular case, I don't think you're kind of changing that much the model, and you can still do the recording of that particular things.
What's the algorithm for encouragement?
But then, I don't know, meaning your robot can probably speak and just say, oh, you really need to take these pills because whatever, you teach them what the care would do.
And when Dorothy dies, am I liable, or is the engineering designed the robot liable, or is who's liable?
Yeah, I guess
There's a whole field. There is a whole field of ethics in AI and robotics, and I went to an amazing conference at the British Computer Society just last week that are on the principles of AI and robotics, ethical principles in development, which are European-wide, but there are agencies in the UK working really hard to embed 5 core principles, of which I was thinking I'm going to speak now. I have to remember all 5 of them, but I can only remember 3 of them, which are around transparency, accountability of the decision-making process, and one of the fundamental principles is a robot is a robot. So the legally liable person is the person that programs that robot. So I think that may come some way towards answering a bit of the questions, but there's a whole field, a really fascinating field, and the BCS is a wonderful place to go. And I think it's Robotics Week coming up in June, and there's a whole series of, I'm plugging the BCS because I learned so much from it, but there's a whole series of events going on where you can go and dip in and see some incredibly clever people building some amazing robotics in healthcare and all kinds of fields that really have these ethical principles at the heart of it. So if you're interested in the topic, I would encourage that series of lectures.
A booming new field for all the lawyers in the room, I can tell. Yes.
scenario happens, don't we send out a human being to have another conversation? So it's
And
not
would
like-
the human have any more success than the robot? That's another thing to consider.
Well, I guess in my opinion, robots in your particular case should be used to help you guys understand how to deal with this kind of people. Like let's say like Woogie's use case. It helps parents understand more about their children and where to take them to the weekend, how to talk when they drive them back from school when they are just like interested in smartphone and tablets and doing there. What kind of information do they approach to have a proper conversation? So in this particular case, I would use robots not to replace the people, but just to make you understand how to approach Dorothy and to anticipate whatever might happen wrong with that particular person. And that's why probably a robot in Dorothy's house will do more than just, remind taking the pills. He'll try to empathize and to ask questions like, what do you like, make conversations and stuff like that. I would see it like more relevant used in that way.
Oana, there's no one to replace. We're worried about losing our jobs, but in social care, there's no one to replace. We're 750,000 care workers short in this country. And that's only in this country.
Can I ask, what do you do now if one of your carers tries to give some medicine and the patient refuses to take it?
We record it. There's a record saying that the patients refused.
There's just one other thing too. I think that was kind of back to the point. I think at the moment when we advise our customer on implementing artificial intelligence, we always recommend them to do escalation to real human in some exception scenarios. So you could potentially having somebody taking control of the robot remotely or coming over. And that's absolutely fundamental. And I think the industry has shown us that unsupervised learning is a pretty bad idea. You just need always some kind of human supervision at some point in time. We're very far away from being that mature, and we can let the robot do whatever it wants. There's always going to be some scenario where you have human intervention.
Hi, I'm Nicola Rossi from Vodafone. My question is about ethics. I thought it was really interesting at the beginning when Rob used the words good and bad about how things might pan out, and there's been a lot of utopian, dystopian dialogue around all sorts of technology for centuries. And given that we're kind of in a space that's moving very quickly, and the laws aren't ready yet and the guidelines aren't ready yet, how do you interact with your clients or your own businesses when you're trying to work out what's right and wrong ethically in this field?
Well, it's easy in our case. We have one of our business partners, she's a barrister, qualified here in England, specialised in AI and ethics, and she's one of the international leaders of this discussion. So at the core of our advice and at the core of our investment thesis sits the ethical considerations in AI, and that's why she was, and I'm very proud to say she was my second partner in the business. Much to quite a lot of people's surprise, why would you want to partner with a barrister specialised in AI when you are looking at advising financial services and employing this technology? So to me, it's always been very clear right from the beginning that if we want to deploy this technology successfully, we need to put these ethical considerations at the heart of everything we do.
Yeah, what I always would say to people is that the law is necessary, but it's far from sufficient. And I guess I would question whether it's ever going to catch up, to be honest. I think there's just the rate of change is only going to increase. What we can't be governed by is what is technologically possible. That is not the problem. It's what is acceptable. A case in point is that if you apply for Tesco's car insurance, you are asked if you want to put in your club card number. And if you do, a machine learning algorithm runs to see if that gives extra information about how risky, how likely you are to take a claim. And if you put in that information, and what comes back is that you're less of a risk than just your address and your age would say you are, which is the other insurance, then you will get a reduced price. Tesco took this decision, and I would agree with it, but if it comes back and it suggests that you're more of a risk, you just get the price you would have got anyway.
How does it know how much of a risk you are? How much booze you buy?
No, it's a black box, but it's just the same as any risk profile.
You already went to Alcohol.
No, it's to do. So your credit score is, to a large extent, how much you've moved around the country, whether they've got consistent record of you, and it gives the same kind of information. It just gives more, if you're consistent in your shopping, and that's extra information about you being sort of like consistent in one place or whatever. It's like all of insurance. It's based off of, historically, people like you, how risky have they been? It's a genuine answer to probably a different question.
I was at the Innovation Award for EFMA, which is an insurer, a couple of weeks ago, and there was that startup that had like an app that could collect some data about you, so they would monitor if you call when you drive or things like that. It was kind of giving you tailored pricing depending on your habits, which were quite inside, because the Google, some of the Google app, they kind of get quite a lot of data on what you do and how you do it. It's quite tricky.
So I'm Lizzie Wilkins. I'm from PwC. I promise those stats were not from me, but I'm in technology consulting. My question is related to that, actually, around with GDPR. How do you see it impacting large companies that are reliant on using customer data and sales data to then drive through their analytics tools and AI meaningful propositions?
I think probably boosts demand for AI, for the ability to be able to implement some of the requirements of GDPR. I think in a way it will actually boost it. Don't you agree? Where being able to actually trace the data on the server that it's held, being able to wipe it or change it. I think when you're handling huge amounts of data, it will probably be a key part of the ability to deliver. But we're all signing agreements for service providers and product companies to use our data anyway. Every time we agree, I think they'll get around it like that for analytics purposes. Do you agree?
Any solution we do now has to be compliant with GDPR because it's coming in right soon. So you're kind of forcing people to have consent at the beginning. And then on the AI side, if you use data for machine learning, you need to go into pseudo-anonymization, because otherwise you're going to have to backtrack on the algorithm training, which is kind of a bit inconvenient. So you have to think about that when you do your AI training. And once you've done some of those things, then it just simplifies some of the kind of consequences of people retracting consent and things like that.
Yes, I'm Emily Brownhill. I also work for BCSWomen Technology Consulting, and the stats were also not from me either. I think my question is a bit around regulation and the ethics of humans rather than the ethics of robots. So the more data is like gold, the more people want to get their hands on that gold, whether consent has been given or not. So how do you see cybersecurity and artificial intelligence sort of coming together in the next few years?
Well, I think in one way, cybersecurity is boosted with AI because they can predict potential threats and actually identify and process more data and see where it's coming from. So probably enhance cybersecurity. I have no idea what the criminal element in the world would do with that. I mean, the mind boggles. But I was recently told not to use my voice for logging into applications, because when you get a phone call, one of these silent phone calls that you get, they could be recording your voice and using it against your login, to whatever voice activate that you just don't know. I'm sure they'll make use of it somehow, but it's just.
Anything special
sure what to add on this. When it comes to data, we're trying to give access to parents to all the information that Woogie learns about children, and basically they have full access to erase all the data, which will make Woogie less relevant. But still, they own this information. This is in terms of regulation, it's a certification that I guess it's only in the US market cover. So yeah, we're struggling into getting that, but we will have the product on the market. And in terms of security, like we do work with IoT Security Foundation, and we're trying to implement all those things that comes with the hardware itself in order to make it as secure as possible. But I agree. I mean, in terms of AI and what we learn from interactions and the mistakes that we're doing and stuff, we can improve even that. But when people want to make bad things, they will make it anyway.
It's kind of comforting to hear that that's your point, that they might have to strengthen each other. I think all the news stories they've been hearing about at the moment is how they're potentially going to weaken each other, and we have that IoT machine to hack from companies over in America and things. It's good to see how they might actually build a way back together again.
Thanks. We had one up here. Do you still have a question?
My name is Anna and I come from a startup. My question is very simple because I think the panel is extremely learned and educated on AI. The question I ask is, has anybody thought of changing the name of artificial intelligence? Why is it artificial intelligence?
It's scary, right?
For so long.
I can comment on that. This is quite funny because I was at the AI Summit in London today, and this came up as a topic that none of the people on the keynotes on the speaking were calling it artificial intelligence. Everybody was going with augmented intelligence. I had that question from somebody kind of writing up from Metro. He's like, should we keep it artificial intelligence? I don't think anybody kind of stated on that, but it was a trend across everybody. Nobody was using the term really.
I agree, it's a buzzword. And at Woogie we have this internal joke that AI is like sex in high school. Everybody talks about it, but no one really is doing it. Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking AI, and it's like a hashtag. I mean, yeah, I would change it. I could. When it comes to parents, at least, you don't want moms to get so freaked out, like, he's gonna get the disease of AI or something. Yeah, it's
I think
interesting.
you're right. I think it's a misrepresented concept, exactly as you would see photos of robots every time attached to every headline in articles, in newspapers. There is AI, there's a robot. Irrespective of what the content of the article, it's artificial intelligence, there's the robot, which is the two got nothing in common.
We need AI to solve this problem.
So
Really cognitive.
But when it stops, then we know where it started, okay? Anyone else? Camille?
Yeah, hi, Camille Mendler with Ovum. I was just thinking, just a comment, it's 100 years since we had the Russian Revolution. And I think if, Lenin or Marx or Engels were in this room, they'd be pretty shocked. But they had lived through the spinning jenny, and the spinning jenny had, replaced 7 jobs, right? 7 workers. So I know that we've had this discussion about losing jobs, but I wonder what else we lose in this world that is governed by logic and pattern matching. I wonder what we lose from human error. How much endeavor, how much discovery that's happened through bad decisions, through emotion, through accident, the discovery of penicillin, where are various other things. So what do we lose, actually, through this world of pattern matching? That's what comes to mind. I worry about this perfection. I worry about perfection, the Borg-like perfection of this. Anyway.
Very profound.
I guess the risk is to make people lazy. Yeah, not think too much. The machine will think for me. It will deliver. So that's the thing that we're into when building Woogie. We look at, still making the interaction challenging in a way, and not to just receive information. The children might ask, and how can we encourage them to dig into that as well? So, but I think this laziness is one thing that concerns us.
It's been happening through the ages, throughout the ages. I mean, when I was young, I was taught how to use logarithms. I can't remember at all. Now, if I want the square root of something, I just use my calculator. So it's been happening throughout time, really. And look at all the sat, people not being able to find their, where they're going or directions, because sat navs do it for them. I mean, we will lose a lot of skills.
I think in the business environment, I think there's a lot to win. When, as a business, you understand your customers better, you have the ability to extract meaningful data, meaningful insights from what your customers want and do. I think there's a lot to win. But that's for business environment. And outside of that space, I can see where you're going to you touching on what are we missing? Are we missing anything? The answer to that is, I think we will. There's nothing in life where you make progress not to lose something and win something. I think it's a zero-sum game at some point.
I think I'd sort of respectfully disagree. I think we'll gain in safety. I mean, that's just almost certainly the case. We will be safer when computers that concentrate all the time are driving us around. And if we look at like Web 2.0, there are more people today making their own videos and blogging, just generally being creative than there's ever been. And I think the opportunities for people to really get on, if they are, so minded, you were saying about the fact now you can do a course in whatever you want at the finest universities, all use internet access. I think we should be optimistic about it.
I would agree with that actually, and as consumers, meaning, this is our time. Before big corporations have been putting the focus on their business and really focus on the system on the inside and give us web UI we couldn't understand, we couldn't navigate, we couldn't get our answers fast and things like that. Meaning, finally, we are in the driver's seat as consumers, and all the big organizations have to compete with one another to make us happy. So I think from a consumer perspective, this is our time to amplify what we need and get things much faster and don't have to deal with all that red tape.
One last question. There's a lady in the corner who's been raising her hand.
Hi, I'm Emily and I work here for IBM. A question regarding toys and parents. You said that parents are taken aback when you talk about AI being integrated into the product. How do you deal with this initial instability?
As in communication?
Yeah.
Communicate. Yeah. I think probably we didn't find crowdfunding campaign would be a great opportunity to understand what works and what doesn't, like for parents, and get feedback from them in order to how to position and communicate this kind of product. But it's more like living the AI thing and the tech side of what Woogie is, and focusing more on the experience itself that the children will have, and focus on benefits rather than hard words that might be scary. As it was mentioned before, like AI pieces of AI things are everywhere. We don't even know that they're there. So
great. Well, I think we've had actually a very thought-provoking evening, probably more wide-ranging than you anticipated when you sat down to learn about potentially robotics this evening, and a lot of it is due to our panelists. So could you please give them a big round of applause? And if you enjoyed this one, we've got another one for you next month on June 14th. It'll be in the middle of London Tech Week. We're going to talk about the bridging